Hi, Dread Central fans. I'm Caroline Williams from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Stepfather 2, Leprechaun 3, and the upcoming this summer release, Sebastian. And Heather Wixson is here to interview me. So here we are. Well, I knew from the first one, Marilyn being the original final girl, because she just is. I knew that her character escaped at the end. I wasn't quite certain that I wasn't going to be killed by the end. It wasn't until we shot the final sequence 2 weeks into the production that I realized I do live to the end. And it gave me a little bit more confidence as we went through the rest of the story. I know something the audience doesn't know, but I can't let them know. And so that was one of the challenges. I couldn't play it so balls out and victorious in every scene. There had to be that unsteady and ambiguous moment in every scene where anything could happen. I love the concept of the final girl, and what I really love today is that I meet young fans, young women, who have grown up understanding the essence of the final girl, which is, you know, a woman in peril who gets herself out of it. You know, horror films are just the ongoing battle between good and evil. And women are sort of the unattainable prize that will either be defeated or destroyed or possessed in one way or another. And is she going to escape? Will she escape with her life? Will she turn the tables? And it's kind of an essential now to horror films. And I love that I followed Jamie Lee Curtis, Marilyn Burns first, of course, but Jamie Lee Curtis from Halloween, because she gave the final girl, you could see the gears turning in her head. And in our film, the gears couldn't be turning quite so efficiently. She had to be at a real primitive level of fighting for her very existence. And that's what my performance was calibrated on. I think horror, it is necessary within horror you have to have victims. There has to be danger. There has to be immediate physical danger. The whole exploitative thing, it's such a women's studies term. I hate those bitches. Because they take far too seriously what is in fact a mortal fact of living. I mean, from the time of the cave men and women to today, you have to stay alive. You have to continue to push yourself forward, no matter what the tragedy or challenge or peril. And I've never, frankly, found it terribly exploitative. Are men not exploited? Are men not drawn and quartered? Are the great heroes of literature and film not tortured and mercilessly murdered and their heads mounted on spikes? Are you kidding me? I mean, it suggests that women are to be a protected, infantilized, coddled little gender, which I think is preposterous. The first film for me was almost like a documentary. You're a witness at the execution, and that was the source of the terror of the whole thing. Is this innocent girl is just off on a day trip with her friends, and the next thing you know, she's running for her life from this insane maniac. And the shift in tone was pretty jarring, but Toby was the director, and I knew that if I could bring this off in as thoroughly and as seriously as he wanted me to, even though we're in the middle of this sort of absurd comedy of a sort, that was what he wanted from me. You know, it's what I consider to be the very essence of good horror. A good horror film is when the ordinary meets the extraordinary. Is when an ordinary person finds themselves in this extraordinary, horrific circumstance. And Toby wanted me to play it very straight and very serious. I didn't see a full script until we began shooting. And then, scene by scene, I got the script, because they didn't want to give away any of the gags or any of the characterizations or any of the outrageous characters that you see, because the family at this point has gone corporate and fits in perfectly with what was the very corporatistic, that's not really a word, but what were the go-go 80s. I mean, that was a really economically powerful time in the United States. And it was sort of Toby's angle on people who are just rapaciously and cannibalistically capitalist. So that was the sort of serious angle on the film, and the rest of it was just basically a wild-ass chase through this insane underground circus. It was hard to keep a straight face sometimes because he was very funny, but at the same time, being in front of Bill, Bill comes across a certain way on screen, and the film was edited in a pretty specific way, but Bill has a pretty dangerous little personality going on, the undercurrents of it, and you know, he had a real unpredictability about the way he played that role. He was constantly riffing on the lines that were written in the screenplay. So that made it tough. The two situations I remember most vividly not understanding is he had a couple of lines of dialogue in a scene with Dennis Hopper that I just couldn't. No soap radio. What does no soap radio mean? And the other thing was the red panties. The wardrobe lady brought red panties before we did the ice house scene. Of course, I hadn't seen the scene. He was planning on talking me through the scene. It wasn't until we got there and he began choreographing what the action was going to be that I realized my shorts were just a little shorter and I'm wearing these red panties because we might see something.